People were saying it was 5-6 metres, but could have been. But I remember being in its mouth, but I don't remember looking at the size of the shark.
I thought, I can't lose him. You know, it's my baby. I can't lose him.
Totally powerless, and that made it probably a bit worse in that I didn't have control over anything. I couldn't help him.
The word miracle is overused, but believe me, this story is the real thing.
It's a miracle.
Get some adrenaline.
Something was in the stars that day.
Did you think you were done for?
Yeah, I did. But, all those thoughts come rushing in your head, like I don't want to die, kind of thing. I don't want to die.
It was Anzac Day this year, a holiday and a chance to surf at the enticing Fishery Bay, an ideal spot which 26-year-old Chris Blows had surfed regularly since he'd moved to Port Lincoln to be with his girlfriend Chloe Yench, who taught at nearby Cummins.
Did you ever worry about sharks when you were surfing?
Yeah, over there, yeah, it's one of those things we always used to talk about.
Along for the surf were mates Brock Will and Nick Thompson. In fact, this is the first time all three have been back to this spot since that fateful day.
Were you nervous about coming back at all?
Yeah, in the car on the way up here, but now that I'm out here, I'm not too bad about it.
There were a number of surfers in the water that morning when the shark struck.
I didn't see it coming, obviously, and now no one did, and yeah, when it just hit me really hard, and sort of knew straight away by then.
Where did it hit you?
Well, it grabbed me the first time from my waist down, but luckily I was sort of paddling on my board and got you still, but the underside of my board protected me from getting a bite here.
It was a fragment of good fortune amidst impending disaster.
When I turned around, I saw the shark latched onto the side of Chris, pulling him under the water, and like instantly I yelled shark.
Yeah, it's kind of the word you don't want to hear.
Nick and Brock had to make a split-second decision what to do.
Just kind of freaked out and looked at Brock and kind of thought, well, what do we do? Yeah.
That's a fair enough question.
Heart was just beating a million miles an hour. Yeah. I pretty much just looked for Nick for the cues of what to do, really. Yeah.
And these young men chose to paddle straight into danger.
Chris popped up after the shark let him go, and I just reached out to grab him. And I was probably a metre off grabbing his hand, and came up again and grabbed him, dragged him back under the water again, and yeah, kind of just froze.
It's hard to describe, but yeah, they're really like a weight of a car kind of thing, kind of pressure on my hip, and then it sort of let go.
The other surfers in the water and on the cliffs looked on in shock as the water turned red.
Saw it come up behind him when I went to grab him, and it
Just take it easy.
I seen it come up behind him and just rip him back under the water, and he felt like he was under the water for ages. Just couldn't see him, couldn't see his board, couldn't see the shark. And I was just sitting there with Brock, just freaking.
They put themselves at significant risk, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They were pretty much at me when it pulled me down the second time, so yeah, they were right there amongst it.
Remarkably, Chris surfaced again. The shark had taken his leg clean off.
And at that stage, were you yet aware that you'd lost your leg?
Nah, it wasn't until I woke up in hospital.
Grabbed him, just got him on my back, and we just started sinking, and the wave hit us, and we fell off my board. So passed him to Brock, and same thing, he tried to get on Brock's back.
And then, yeah, we're like right where the waves were sort of breaking, so that knocked him off of me as well. And then we were kind of like all spread apart. And yeah, he was a little bit motionless in the water.
The only thing they could do is grab him under his arms and drag him to the rocks.
Yeah, I was just lucky. There was someone there, Dave, had the tourniquet ready.
A simple thing, but it was critical to Chris's chances of survival.
There was another bloke on the rocks who was like holding up his own leg rope, and yeah, I guess he had the idea that we were going to use that as the tourniquet.
That tourniquet went on 10 seconds later, I'm sure I would have been gone.
Immediately the bleeding stopped, but the next challenge was to somehow get him up the cliff.
Slipped my board under Chris as a stretcher while we had him in the water, and yeah, there was about 10 of us swapping, taking turns trying to get him through the rocks and up the stairs.
Everyone at the scene helped in some way as they struggled to keep Chris level while climbing 2 flights of stairs.
So I think someone else ran up to get my car and yeah, got it ready for us.
Another made a call to the SA ambulance base in Port Lincoln, about 40 kilometres away. Somehow they got him to the top and into Nick's car. Time was now critical.
What was that drive like?
Pretty scary, yeah. Just trying to go as fast as I could without crashing. It was pretty wet and slippery.
Coming in the opposite direction along the dirt road were SA ambulance officers Linda Martin and Chloe Slarks, not exactly sure what was ahead of them.
The call dropped out and we knew it was a bite of some sort, but whether it was a snake bite, the last thing in my mind was a shark bite. That's usually the nature of the job that we go to, is you just don't know what you're getting into until you get there.
And while this was hardly Chris's lucky day, on board they fortunately had an extra pair of hands.
It was really uncanny that day that we did have a third with us, and he made a huge difference.
As soon as I saw the ambulance, I kind of pulled in behind and got out and opened the back for them. Just helped get Chris out and felt for a pulse and checked for breathing, and yeah, there was nothing. Just kind of told the ambulance, yeah, he's dead. And they just took him.
So that must have been the last thought you had when he left in the ambulance, that you'd lost him?
Yeah.
I haven't met the doctor yet that was on, but I think when I do, it's going to be a very emotional moment. I'm going to hug her and I'm never going to let her go, and the same with the paramedics.
Those paramedics were Linda and Chloe, who were racing to meet Chris's mates, driving furiously towards them. By the time they met up, Chris's heart had stopped. It was now up to them.
Then we went into 2-man CPR all the way to hospital.
And, I mean, effectively he was dead, wasn't he?
Yeah.
About this time, back in Adelaide, Chris's girlfriend Chloe took the first of many distressing phone calls.
When I saw the phone call, I just knew, it was weird. I can't even describe it. So when I heard the news, it was shocking, but it was almost like, yeah, I kind of knew it was coming.
It fell to her to contact Chris's parents, Dennis, a police officer, and Diane, a teacher.
Yeah, there's been an accident. Chris has been attacked by a shark, and I probably went into a bit of mild shock straight as soon as she said that, because I knew that that's pretty serious. But she did say he's okay. I think she said he's lost a leg.
I just thought, can't believe it. I was home by myself. And I thought, what am I going to do? I rang the station to see, and they said that Dennis had already left to go to the Royal Adelaide, and then I just sort of went to pieces after that, I think.
On arrival at Port Lincoln Hospital, there was just one priority.
You wouldn't have blamed them if they'd stopped, because knowing how hard CPR is.
But they continued the exhausting work for 90 minutes. Chris lived for 90 minutes without a heartbeat.
And since we found out, the paramedics said, you know, I've got a son at home the same age as Christopher, I had to keep going.
And while the nurses and doctors fought valiantly to wrestle him back from oblivion, not far away a footy game was halted for the MedStar chopper to land on the oval. Having been stabilised, the transfer then took place and Chris was on his way to the Royal Adelaide Hospital.
They said it was like a war zone when Chris left because it was just action station. But yeah, they put everything into him and that's the reason why he's here, really.
But Chris's fight for survival had really only just begun.
I mean, the night before it was probably you know, the worst night of the family's life, I'd say, because we were virtually put on notice that there could be a chance of brain damage. And
that's even if he made it.
Yes, that's right.
So all night I stayed with Chloe that night and we just talked all night about, you know, the what ifs, silly things, you know, if he is alive, if he hasn't got brain damage, he's not going to be able to wear his thongs again. You know, he loves to wear his thongs. He loves, you know, silly things that you just go through your mind, stupid things. It's indescribable. I can't, you know, it's your child, your baby. You just think it's not possible that you could ever lose a child. But we came that close.
He's lost a leg and he's going to have brain damage. Perhaps it might have been easier if the shark had taken him. Nobody said that, but I think we're all thinking.
We had no idea of what was still to come with his injuries, so that was only the tip of the iceberg, really.
Just take it easy.
Yeah, I mean, everyone there that day was obviously traumatic for everyone. People collected my board with my leg still attached on the beach, and yeah.
Dennis Blows had rushed to the Royal Adelaide Hospital by the time the chopper carrying his son Chris put down. Chris Blows had, thanks to his mates and strangers, survived an attack from a great white shark. He'd made it to Port Lincoln Hospital and was then flown to the Royal Adelaide, but his battle for survival had really only just begun. And
I remember seeing him being wheeled past and doctors everywhere. I really probably didn't want to see him at that stage because I knew it wouldn't be nice.
And it's fair to say that Chris was pretty much at death's door for a lot of this event in the immediate aftermath.
He'd gone 90 minutes without a heartbeat, and the consequences of that could be devastating, if not fatal.
Once the blood pressure drops to critical levels, all the other organs start to switch off. So the kidneys begin to switch off, there's damage, as I said, to the brain, the heart needs stimulating, and the leg itself became slightly less relevant. That was, when he got here, the surgeons would have fixed the end of that up temporarily and said, look, that's not going to kill him anymore. Now we've got to start worrying about all the other stuff. We've got to start worrying about the brain and the lungs and the heart and the kidney.
Dr. Dan Ellis is the clinical director of SAS MedStar, which is the emergency retrieval team of SA Ambulance. And while he didn't attend Chris personally, he's a hands-on trauma specialist and knows the case.
This is what we're trained for. This is what the hospitals, the pre-hospital retrieval service, the volunteers, the country hospitals, everyone is geared up for this. This is the big one. When someone like Chris comes onto your radar, this is where all resources are chucked at him.
And it worked. Somehow he made it through that first night. And the next morning, something amazing happened.
I got a phone call from Diane, I think it was, just before I was about to leave, to go back down to say that they'd brought him out of the coma and he'd spelt our name out, as in Dad and Mum. So that was pretty emotional.
I kept saying, there's no way you wake up and you say, I want Mum. You say it straight away, and then he just spelt D-A-D in the air, and I thought, you can't be brain damaged. You can't be brain damaged if you can spell D-A-D in the air. And I thought, this is good. He's going to be okay.
Chris was then placed back in a coma, which was to last for 10 days.
At all points, Chris was critically unwell.
During that 10 days, you and the family must have been incredibly anxious.
Yeah. Oh, incredibly. We set up camp in the hospital waiting room, and we pretty much lived in there every day.
There was still a very good chance that we could lose him.
There's one particular doctor, and he said, he's a strong boy, he's made it this far. He's going to be okay. And I just hung on that.
10 days after that, they tried to wake him, lowered the sedation, and he started to respond to the commands. He did everything they asked. And that was the best feeling ever.
All those involved had been holding their breaths.
The doctors, weren't giving us heaps of good news, and then one day he just kind of opened his eyes.
But Chris also opened his eyes to the fact that his life would not quite be the same, at least not for a while.
At what point did you realise that you'd lost your leg?
When the doctor came and told me, I didn't think too much about it then, but sort of nothing really sunk in that much until I got home, even 6 weeks later, and then, I didn't sort of think it was sort of like I'd like to be alive, really.
I think when you come so close to losing your life or having brain damage, it makes it a lot easier to come to terms with something like losing a leg. I think that really helped.
I'm glad that, I didn't have brain damage, and I'm glad I'm still sort of right up and still the same person.
Sure.
Yeah.
When he was conscious, what were the first things that you had to say?
Just that you loved him, and he just kept pointing. He kept pointing to his leg, obviously, Mum, Dad, I've lost my leg, and we're just like, we don't care about that, you're alive, you shouldn't be here, you've just beaten all odds just to wake up.
Chris made remarkable progress, and after 6 weeks he was ready to go home. He'd become one of the staff's favourite miracles, and they were miracle workers to him.
They did a phenomenal job.
Well done, team.
It's how we would expect to respond, and that's the satisfying bit for us, is that we're part of Chris's remarkable recovery, but only because the system worked so well for him and delivered what it's supposed to deliver.
However, aside from the physical damage, these traumatic events are impossible to erase.
Did you have nightmares?
Not really, no. Just obviously thoughts about it before I was going to sleep, and no nightmares.
How have you managed to get through all this? Because it would have been incredibly traumatic.
Yeah, definitely. To see him good, it's good.
Okay, so see how you going up the steps and then foot over foot on the way down.
Chris's next challenge was to try to get his normal life back.
But he's blown me away. He's been so positive the whole time. It's like, this has happened, I'm going to get on with life. And I attribute a lot of his positive thinking to Chloe, who is an amazing, and I guess we are very positive as a family as well.
While I'm still young, I want to still be able to do everything that well, pretty much everything I was able to do before.
Standing balance and control. Good job, keep going.
And we were really quick people, everything we did. You do miss that, but at the same time you just have to think back to those dark days in ICU.
Anything now is just going to be a very small hurdle compared to the huge hurdle he's overcome.
Even so, you've got to walk before you can run. And after intensive rehab, again Chris seems to have made amazing progress.
He's looking like he's a natural.
He's an exceptional prosthetic user and person, I guess. Better say that.
Physio Amy Martin has been the one putting him through his paces at the repat.
In terms of actual rehab and exercise, that will be lifelong for him, trying to make sure he stays as fit as possible and as strong as possible so that he's able to do the things that he wants to be able to do in the future.
He's also been aided by prosthesis specialist Adam Holden.
Pivotal is that the socket fits well, so for him to be able to trust the leg and to use it to the most of its ability.
Chris's next goal is a state-of-the-art prosthesis capable of replicating the muscle movement of a human leg.
They provide him with a lot more situational stability, so the more sophisticated they are, the more feedback the knee itself gets, and it will react to those situations.
Like surfing, perhaps.
I might give it a crack somewhere.
What will your mum and dad have to say about that?
Oh, too keen, I don't think.
Definitely not.
But these high-tech devices are expensive. He gets no funding and he must raise $90,000 himself. Friends have been holding fundraisers, but he's still got a way to go. Meanwhile, no one is arguing about how fortunate he is to be here at all.
It's indescribable. I can't, it's your child, your baby, you just think it's not possible that you could ever lose a child, but we came that close.
Probably now humbling to think that you're so close to losing a child, and the fact that we've got him and he's fine. You just think of the parents who are now possibly watching this that haven't been so lucky.
Indeed.
And that's where it becomes humbling.
Yeah, amazing. From the two paramedics, did CPR to all the doctors, and I just made all the right decisions that day, and I can't thank them enough.